Hello, Overworld and Minecraftians. Welcome back to a brand new Realm News. It is great to see you all again. For those who do not know me, I am your host, the Dark Lord, the one who puts the real in Realm and expands your mind one block at a time. This is a podcast about all things Minecraft, where I pick an item, a mob, a block, or some kind of object, or something directly related to Minecraft, and link that same or similar topic to the real world. For example, I covered Minecraft Copper, and I linked it to the Chalcolithic period or Copper Age in human history. Today, I chose to talk about the underwater Minecraft organism that grows in most oceans and seas. That is kelp. I will talk about where you can find kelp, the history of kelp in Minecraft, and its uses. I will mirror this with the real world kelp, how long we have been eating it, and some of its other uses. I hope you can hold your breath for a long time, because we are going to be diving for kelp in this episode. That will be right after our riveting segment of poll time, which is coming up right about now. It's poll time! Yes, my friends, it is poll time. Another week where we get to hear from fellow Minecraft enthusiasts. I made a unique poll this week, in inspiration to something I have been playing around with lately. That is TNT. Yes, I wanted to explore how people use this dangerous, explosive block in the game. I have just recently, with the help of the Sun King, made a monster farm. I now have an abundance of gunpowder, and I am able to craft a lot of TNT with all the red sand from the 2 Badland biomes in my realm. I recently buried a couple blocks of TNT in the ground, and I put pressure plates on top of them. I then learned that you can shoot pressure plates with an arrow, and it will trigger an explosion. This resulted in 2 good-sized craters in the ground. I was honestly a bit impressed by this. I may end up using TNT for mining purposes in the Nether. You will hear more about that soon when I read off comments. Let's examine the question. Do you use TNT? This question earned a total of 25 votes. Not our biggest turnout, but I appreciate all those who participated in the poll. A big thank you to all those who participated. Thank you, thank you. Along with that simple question, I provide 3 choices to choose from. Yes, no, and occasionally. I will go ahead and dive into the results. I will start in my usual manner by beginning with the loser of the group here, of the 3 choices. The no group earned the least amount of votes in this week's poll. They had 5 votes altogether. Perhaps these 5 votes were people who just do not have much gunpowder. Maybe they are new to the overworld. Maybe they just do not find use for it. I will admit, I did not use TNT at all until a couple days ago, and I may not use it in the future, as I was daydreaming about a second ago by stating I might start to blast away the nether for netherite. I will see how useful it is and go from there. So I do not fault those for not using TNT, not at all. Again, there's no correct way to play this game. Moving on to second place group. This is the opposite of no, with 7 votes, which is the yes group. I am happy to see that people get some use out of the TNT. Now moving on to the winner. The winner this week is the only group left not mentioned, the occasional group. They won with 13 votes. Crushing the other 2. I was part of this group. However, I could have easily went into the no group since I have only used TNT twice, as I just stated just a few moments ago. However, I plan on using it more, and you will see why. I would like to read a comment by trainlord_TF, who says, quote, mostly for netherite mining or making space for beacons at the bottom of the world. And I have 2 tunnel bores that don't use TNT duplication, and it's been a while since I've used them. End quote. First off, I had to look up what TNT duplication was. It turns out that it is a way to dupe, quote unquote, the system to create multiple blocks of TNT out of one block. It seems that this cheat is made by using pistons in a specific fashion in order to trick the TNT block into duplicating itself. It is kind of interesting. Just type in TNT duplication or duping and you will see it for yourself. Just put that into a search engine and you'll see that. I think it can only be done on Java though. Another interesting thing I found in their statement is that they use TNT to bore holes down to place beacons at the bottom of the overworld. That is very interesting. I wonder why. I never asked. I should have. They also use it for netherite mining. This is something that I mentioned earlier that I plan on doing. I asked trainlord_TF, quote, does that speed up netherite mining? End quote. They replied back by saying, quote, I think it does speed finding netherite up since you uncover a lot of blocks in a short time span. I don't mind with TNT since I want to collect old blocks I removed from the world to build or just collect. Manual mining is better and faster for that. End quote. I like that they supplied me a direct yes answer and expanded on it by saying that manual mining is better. I was genuinely curious about all that. I like the idea of TNT clearing out huge swaths of netherrack in order to expose the netherite ore block. It sounds like a faster mining process in the nether, which would be great because the nether is extremely dangerous. And anything that speeds up a process, it's just much more welcome. I will more than likely start mining for netherite in this way, but that is all I will use TNT for. Unless I start playing player versus player, and then I'll probably use it for some traps against people. Thank you, trainlord_TF, for those awesome comments. Our next commenter is DPH_Labrat. They say, quote, netherite mining, TNT dupers for redstone, that's just about it though, end quote. Another person who uses TNT to mine for netherite. I definitely need to start doing this. As for the dupers, as I had just stated, is only for Java players. I wouldn't use it regardless if I was playing Java or Bedrock because that is not how I play. But I can see how this is a great way to get plenty of free TNT. I don't blame anyone for using this hack. Desert temples are a great place to find TNT as well. I just want to throw that out there. I believe you can find 9 blocks of TNT in those places. Thank you, DPH_Labrat, for that amazing comment. That is also our last comment that I am going to read for today in poll time, folks. I would like to now close the poll and move on to our next part of the show, The Real, where I am going to share some fascinating knowledge about kelp with you. I learned a great deal from doing the research on it, and I think you will all enjoy it. I will see you all there. We have made our transition over to the real of the show, my friends. Welcome. Today we are talking about kelp. It would probably help if I gave an explanation to what kelp is exactly. According to oceanservice.noaa.gov, kelp is large brown algae that lives not far from coastlines in shallower, cool waters. Many of the kelp forests in the United States can be found on the West Coast. An example would be around Big Sur or Monterey Bay, California. Kelp does not grow much deeper than in the depth range of between 45 to 131 feet under the water. In metric, that range is 13.7 to 31.3 meters deep. This is because kelp relies on photosynthesis for energy and sunlight becomes less intense the deeper you go underwater. Also, kelp makes a great habitat for other marine life to live. These areas where kelp thrive are called kelp forests, and they resemble forests but underwater. These forests are perfect places for fish and other marine life to hide from predators and keep their offspring safe and sound. A quote taken from this oceanservice.noaa.gov article states that kelp helps, quote, seals, sea lions, whales, sea otters, gulls, terns, snow egrets, great blue herons, cormorants, and shorebirds, end quote. It also mentions that kelp forests harbor more life than many other ocean biomes on Earth. However, kelp does not just nourish marine life and birds. Humans have been eating kelp for thousands of years as well. I found an amazing article at theconversation.com titled, People in Europe ate seaweed for thousands of years before it largely disappeared from their diets. New research. Co-authored by Karen Hardy and Stephen Buckley. It goes on to explain how archaeologists were able to collect examples of calculus, an odd and scientific word for plaque, off of ancient skeletal remains in order to detect what they ate, which kelp or algae was one of those foods ingested by our ancient ancestors. Scientists have taken 74 samples of calculus from skeletal remains found across 28 archaeological sites in Europe. They have discovered within the samples of plaque that people from the Mesolithic period all the way to the Middle Ages have been eating kelp as a staple part of their diet. It is probably because food was more scarce back then in those days, and kelp can be found along the coast all year round and consumed. It wasn't only for people who lived along the coast either. Archaeologists have found evidence from skeletons found inland that ate freshwater aquatic flora in the form of lilies and pondweed. It amazes me that scientists are able to detect certain biomarkers from these samples found in plaque and identify what type of algae out of 10,000 species of algae on Earth, which one it specifically is. To give you some perspective, the Mesolithic period took place around 8,000 BCE, or 10,000 years ago. We have been eating this stuff for a long time now. So it's just very intriguing that we can detect that. In fact, there are a few ancient recipes still out there today which people still enjoy preparing and eating. Allow me to tell you about one that's found in Conversations article. It is called laverbread, and it is still found in the United Kingdom, specifically in Wales. Laverbread, according to Wikipedia, is actually a type of edible seaweed that is primarily found under rocks along the west coast in the United Kingdom. It has been harvested in Britain since the 17th century and is a traditional Welsh breakfast. They harvest this algae and wash it over and over again, a thorough rinse. They then boil it until it becomes a paste-like puree. Once it is a paste, it is rolled in oats or coated in oatmeal before being fried. And it is fried. After it is fried, it is served with bacon and cockles. And a cockle, for people such as my American counterparts who don't know what a cockle is, it's just another word for a mollusk, which is a clam, essentially. The bacon sounds good to me. Clams for breakfast, however, no thank you. I will stick to my bacon and eggs. Now moving on, kelp is making a comeback in the United States due to it being a super healthy food. There are many benefits to eating kelp from what I read on seafoodnutrition.org. They say, quote, seaweed and kelp are high in antioxidants, which means they might help play a role in combating heart disease, cancer, and other diseases. They are also both high on iodine, potassium, magnesium, iron, calcium, which are all nutrients your body needs to stay healthy, end quote. They go on to say that the iodine found in kelp also helps combat thyroid problems and provides a balanced metabolism. There are many healthy benefits to eating kelp. As you can see, kelp has been around for millennia in our diets. The ancients had a good understanding of what to eat back in those times, and it appears that it is not going to be leaving our diets anytime soon. Chic, ultra-modern restaurants around the world are now preparing niche dishes that are prepared with kelp or kelp as the main dish. It is now the new fad diet in some parts of the world, as opposed to some cultures where it never left the diet. Kelp is easily accessible to many of us thanks to modern transportation and logistics. Kelp is appearing in all forms of food. You can buy them in noodles, kelp popcorn, burgers, jerky, kelp powder, salsa, hot sauce, and pickled kelp. Those are just a few kelp food items that you can find out there. But there are many, many more that I did not include on that list that I just read off. So the next time that you are on the West Coast, let's say in Monterey, California, at a restaurant or near the beach, look and see if they have kelp on the menu and try it out. From what I have read, kelp comes in all sorts of different flavors and you may like it. Just don't go out there and start plucking that out of the water and eating it. You might have to rinse it a little bit. According to Monterey-based seaweeds.com, the dulse seaweed has a bacon flavor to it. It is a reddish brown, coppery looking seaweed that turns a dark spinach green after being boiled. Supposedly, this is great for a bar snack after being fried, from what I read. So ditch the Chex Mix and bar pretzels and grab a handful of fried dulse instead. Or try a seaweed called ogo, which is also a coppery reddish tinted color algae, just like the dulse, but this is used often by pastry chefs for its ability to make foods gelatinous. It is also used in salads and in cold broths. Kelp, seaweed, algae, however you want to call it, it is a very diverse organism with many uses in the kitchen. I hope that I made you hungry and want to sample some kelp for yourself. If not, don't worry, because we are about to traverse over to the realm where your character can eat kelp. So, whenever you're ready, let's travel to the realm and sample some brown algae called kelp in the Overworld. Welcome to the realm. I hope you made that transition from the real to realm over with ease. I brought you back again to Seatown. Yes, I know that you are all too familiar with this town by now, but what better spot to find kelp than in an ocean? We will be going over all the uses of kelp in Minecraft today. First, I would like to start with the history of kelp and find out when it was introduced into the Overworld. A list that was published on May 21st, 2009, and is stored on web.archive.org, titled The Word of Notch, where he published a list of items he was contemplating putting in Minecraft at the time. Let me explain. The Word of Notch, briefly, before I tell you more about kelp's history in Minecraft. The Word of Notch, according to minecraft.wiki, was his personal Tumblr blog that he used. Allow me to read a quote I picked. Quote, "The Word of Notch contained information revealing future updates, as well as daily happenings at the Mojang office and behind-the-scenes posts about Minecraft's history and technical aspects. The blog also contained a direct feed from his Twitter account. After Notch stopped working on Minecraft, his posts were made up of his opinions and daily thoughts or focuses, which were only posted about once every couple months." End quote. That was from Minecraft Wiki, where I pulled that from. The Tumblr blog was initially started in 2009, the same year that his list mentioning kelp was published. And it lasted until August 26, 2021, when someone discovered and reported that it had been taken down. There was speculation that perhaps Marcus Persson, aka Notch, himself removed the blog for personal reasons. Or maybe Tumblr removed it for it being inactive for so many years. Notch's last post on the blog was on August 19th, 2013, titled, "So That's What I'm Going to Do." it would make sense that the blog would be removed for being inactive for so many years, in my opinion. Moving on to his list that mentions kelp for the first time, titled, My List on Tile Types So Far. Quote, this is not final, but here's what I've gotten down so far. And it breaks down to a list. Tile types. Snow on top of topmost tiles. Ice on top of water. Slippery. Sand. Glass. Pretty much just for looks, I guess. Gravel. Or only iron. Metal block. Wood. Trees as well. Crystal. Not sure if it has a use, but imagine finding a large slab of crystal underground. Next, coal. Combined with iron or for steel, which would make sense scientifically even. Corals. Awesome idea. Solar blade. I don't know what solar blade means, but that was on the list. Corals. Awesome idea. Solar blade. I don't know what that is. I need to look into that. And then seaweed. There's more to the list, but I stopped it there at seaweed. There's a few more items, but I left it there. Seaweed. And in quote, I am curious about the spikes on that list, though. I thought that kind of caught my eye. What would the spikes been used for? A railroad? Like really constructing railroads? Maybe that would probably been really tedious. I'm glad they didn't make us actually drive spikes in the ground like in the 1800s. That would have been horrible. But I thought it was interesting to see this list from so many years ago and to see that what Notch was thinking at that time. Because whatever he plays in Minecraft during the genesis of the game would have shaped how we played it today and forever. It would have taken years for seaweed to materialize into Minecraft, though, in the form of kelp as we know it today. It was Minecon Earth, November 18th, 2017, with host Will Arnett. You might remember him from Arrested Development. He's also the Reese's, I believe, the Reese's voice spokesperson for the commercial candy, Reese's. Anyways, Will Arnett interviewed Jens Bergensten on that November 18th, 2017 Minecon event about the Update Aquatic. In the video presented by Jens Bergensten, aka Jeb, during that event, we get to see a whole range of new items presented. And one of those is kelp. Fast forward months later, after this event with Will Arnett as the host, we fast forward to February 14th, 2018, Valentine's Day. The Minecraft community was able to play with the aquatic features shown in that Minecon Earth event by accessing the snapshot 18W07A. And the Update Aquatic became official on Java a few more months later on July 18th, 2018. However, Bedrock was 3 months ahead of Java and had already been playing with kelp and all the other fun new aquatic features since May 16th, 2018. I would like to now quote a Mojang developer named Jasper, who is quoted in Minecraft.net's article talking about the originality of kelp in Minecraft. Quote, kelp is the first plant to utilize a new kind of visual feature, animation. Before, the only things that were animated were either particles or the lava/water and some other solid blocks, but we never animate a plant that used transparency. It would look very unnatural if it didn't move at all underwater. It's okay on land that everything is static because it still looks good. And animating all the land foliage might be too busy in general. End quote. I agree with Jasper. I think it would look a little too static underwater if the kelp didn't move at all. I could see that being a challenge for a developer to design as well. I thought that was interesting to learn that kelp was the first of its kind in the game to use animation and transparent properties together to achieve this wonderful effect. Now that we know the history of Overworld kelp, I would like to tell you where you can locate this nutritious and versatile aquatic plant. Kelp is a bountiful plant found in most ocean biomes in the game. It will be easier for me to tell you where you will not find it than where it can be found. Obviously, you will not find it on land. Good luck. I dare you to try. But you will also not find it in frozen, deep frozen, and warm ocean biomes. And to me, this makes logical sense. It shows that the Mojang team was thinking scientifically, as they usually do when designing new features. I say that because kelp does not grow in warm oceans, as I stated in the real part of the show, or I believe I stated that. It doesn't. It likes cool, colder waters. And it won't grow in ice as well. So I like that Mojang made it more realistic by doing that. Also, you can typically find kelp wherever you find seagrass in the game. Now that you know where to find it, let me tell you how to obtain it. It is very simple and doesn't take any tools. You can break it with your bare hands. Once you have obtained some kelp, let me tell you what you can do with it. Kelp has several great uses to it. It can redirect water. You can eat it, use it for compost and fuel. I would like to start by telling you how to use it to make water source blocks. Kelp can be planted underwater by hand or by using commands. When you plant kelp, it will have a random chance of having a 0 to 24 age value, which, to break that down from my understanding of it, means pretty much, let's say it started growing at, let's say you planted it and it's at 10 age. That means it should be 10 blocks of kelp, 10 individual kelps tall, if that makes sense. I believe it grows one kelp at a time. It's measured by its age by one kelp. So I thought that was interesting. Also, kelp can grow up to 26 blocks high, but kelp's age stops at 24. It gets a little complicated there. Read the wiki if you don't trust me, but that's how it's stated. I wasn't going to dispute the math because I'm not really a mathematical type of a person. So I'm just going to go with it, and I apologize. I didn't jump in the ocean. My character's deep inland at a pale garden, and it's in the middle of nowhere in my world, and I wasn't able to get to an ocean, examine, and count kelp blocks. So go check out the wiki, but I think 26 blocks high sounds right to me, which is very tall. Kelp, as I said, will grow in water or in downward flowing water. When kelp is under downward flowing water, it will become waterlogged and will turn out into a water source block where it's at in the water, which is extremely useful for water bubble column elevators and for manipulating water for other uses. Another use, you can set blocks on top of kelp, which this is helpful because it saves you from diving down to the very bottom of an ocean to start building a column or whatever it is that you are building in a deep ocean. It'll just save you a little bit more oxygen. It'll save you from holding your breath longer by placing blocks down, because eventually you're going to want to place blocks in the water. At some point, there's a lot of water in Overworlds. I know that I build underwater, so this is handy to know. I haven't used this technique, but this is handy to know. I always use a lily pad technique, but I like this. Also, the nice thing about kelp is that it's extremely easy to grow once you get it planted underwater. It doesn't require a light source, nor does it need access to the sky. So obviously, this is where Minecraft verges away from science, because in the real world, as we discussed, kelp, they are photosynthetic and need sunlight to live. Another piece of knowledge is that it will grow on average every 8 minutes in the game. Kelp, such as sugarcane, is very easy to harvest. Kelp may even be easier to harvest because when it is broken, it will float to the surface since it is underwater. People use this mechanic to make kelp farms. The kelp will break off and water will direct the pieces of kelp to a hopper and then into a collection chest. You may be asking yourself why you would want to obtain kelp. Well, like I said earlier, it has several uses, which brings me to cooking kelp. If you are wanting to expand your overworld diet and perhaps stray away from meat and potatoes, you can always turn to kelp. Kelp, just like in real life, can be consumed in Minecraft. All you have to do is cook it over a campfire, in a smoker, or in a furnace. You will also earn experience points while cooking it. So bonus! Each cooked piece of kelp will yield you 0.1 XP. I know that doesn't sound like a lot, but that adds up, people. A whole stack of 64 kelp cooked will yield you 6.4 XP total. Each of these pieces of kelp, after being cooked, will nourish you by filling the hunger meter by 1 point and saturation by 0.2. I almost said 2, sorry, by 0.2 on bedrock. The beauty behind kelp is that you ingest it twice as fast compared to any other food in the game. It is a plentiful, fast, easy snack to take along with you on voyages. Better yet, though, if you do not want to eat it, or if you have leftovers, you can use it for fuel. This is great when in a pinch. However, you can only use kelp as a fuel source when it is in a dried kelp block. Dried kelp blocks are very similar to hay bales in their construction. To make one, you will need 9 dried pieces of kelp. This will yield 1 dried kelp block. Once you have this, you are then able to place this in a furnace, smoker, or blast furnace and use it to smelt items. 1 dried kelp block will have enough fuel to smelt 20 items. It will burn for a duration of 3 minutes and 33 seconds, or 1/4 of the time it takes a block of coal to burn. I would like to tell you an interesting tip. 1 bucket of lava can smelt 100 items. You might all be aware of that, but a bucket of lava equals 100 smelted items. But did you know that you can increase its net output by an additional 120 smelted items just by using that same bucket of lava to smelt 100 kelp pieces? Once you have 100 dried kelp pieces, you can then make 11 dried kelp blocks, which in turn will smelt a total of 220 items. Voila! Like that, you have increased your net output significantly. It is all about efficiency and economy in this game. Now let's talk about composting. Kelp for compost is a great use. However, I will tell you right away that you should not use dried kelp blocks for compost. They are not bad, but you are better off by just placing raw kelp or dried kelp individually into a composter. Allow me to explain. 100 dried kelp blocks will generate approximately 7.5 bone meal. If you were to instead take 900 pieces of kelp, dried or raw, and place that into the composter individually instead of by the block, that would yield you almost 39 bone meal on average. That is an astonishingly huge increase of output. 31.5 bone meal difference to be precise. Or I should say an increase. It is a difference, but that's 31.5 extra bone meal if you were to do it that method as opposed to using just the dried kelp block. So do yourself a favor and place them individually into the composter. Also, one last thing I would like to tell you all about dried kelp blocks. You can make some income off them. Income as in emeralds by trading with an expert level butcher. However, I do not know if it's worth the trade. The butcher will give you one sole lone emerald in exchange for 10 dried kelp blocks. That is 90 individual pieces of kelp. Placing one individual piece of kelp into a composter has a 30% chance of raising the compost level by 1 level. I recommend just using it for composting and collect your emeralds another way. Trade sticks with a Fletcher or something for emeralds. Unless you have a kelp farm, then perhaps you're swimming in kelp. If so, then yeah, trade kelp for emeralds. Why not? Besides using kelp for practical and functional uses, we cannot ignore the aesthetic appeal that kelp provides us. I have yet to use kelp as an aesthetic enhancement within my realm. Yet. Doing the research on kelp has allowed me to view what it looks like in an item frame, which I will admit, I had never thought about placing kelp in item frames. I admit this as well. I actually like how it looks. There's something about kelp in the item frame that reminds me of a 19th or 18th century botanist book, like a page out of it. Something I would see drawn by Charles Darwin in his Book of Evolution in the Galapagos. Also, it gives an aquatic vibe that would be great for a marine-themed room or building. Other than being used in item frames to enhance drab walls, this can also be used to increase your curb appeal. I am already thinking that I need to place this outside my underwater rooms. If you all remember me mentioning in a past episode, one of my guest rooms in my palace, named Dark Lord's Landing, is in fact underwater and has a submerged view of the ocean and its coral reefs. Strategically placed kelp would definitely help increase that aquatic feel for my guests. Also, I now feel compelled to go down there and hang up some item frames with kelp in them. My guests will love it the next time they visit my palace that sits on an island. That, my friends, is all I have on kelp for this week. Now, unfortunately, I have to wrap up this week's episode with a conclusion. Please stay tuned for that. I feel inspired by kelp now. I hope that I've inspired you to do something with kelp as well, whether that be crafting into food or fuel, or use it to redirect water by making water source blocks with it, which in turn can be used to make mechanisms such as water elevators, or to enhance your palace like I plan on doing, by putting kelp in item frames and hang them in my rooms, or grow it in your oceans near your cities or underwater cities to maximize your curb appeal. There are many uses as we have learned on how to use kelp in the overworld. Kelp has also been extremely important to we humans for literally thousands of years. Scientists have been able to analyze the calculus or the plaque of ancient people and determine what they ate. And to their astonishment, we have been eating it for around 12,000 years. I've found that all fascinating, and I hope that you have as well. I want to thank you all for tuning in again to another Realm News. As always, it has been an absolute pleasure to be your host. I wish you all happy crafting, and I look forward to seeing you this upcoming Tuesday on Realm News Flash and next Thursday on Realm News. The Dark Lord signing out. Hello, Realm News fans. I just wanted to pop back in here and just tell you all how much I appreciate you for listening to this show. It means the world to me that you tune in every week to hear me, the Dark Lord, the one who puts the real in realm and expands your mind one block at a time. I am honored to be your host and to be able to deliver to you weekly original Minecraft content, with Realm News Flash and Realm News on Tuesdays and Thursdays. If you enjoyed the show, I would love it if you would tell your friends about it and tell them to follow the show. Hit that like button and leave a comment. I know that on Spotify you can leave comments on individual episodes, same on Good Pods. I'm not sure on all the other podcast player platforms out there, but I appreciate the feedback, so please comment if you are able to. If you cannot comment wherever you listen to Realm News, then you can by following Realm News at either its Twitter, now X, Blue Sky, Reddit, or email, which is all found at bio.link/realmnews, which is all lowercase. Again, that is bio.link/realmnews. There you can also make a monetary donation by clicking on the Ko-Fi link. I put in about 30 hours a week in research, writing, editing, marketing, recording, social media, and much more in creating and keeping this show running. The donations would help me eventually give up my second job so I can focus more on this podcast and deliver more content with better quality to you. I understand times are tough, and I do not expect anyone to give me money. I'm just saying that if you are able to, it's much appreciated. However, you can show your appreciation by just listening, liking, following, or recommending the show as I said earlier. That means much more than you would ever know. With that said, I wish you all happy crafting, and I look forward to talking to you at the next Realm News episode. The Dark Lord signing out.